Jackson Gilbo here, taking a look at tonight's 12-game slate, breaking down injury news, some value that's going to open up probably throughout the day here, and also looking at maybe a couple top studs that I'll be looking at. Overall, 12-game slate, so a lot going on, a lot of injury news that we'll need to keep tabs on as the day goes on. But as far as Vegas goes, I mean, got a lot of games over, 210, more than half the slate tonight. Some of the smaller ones, I mean, really Milwaukee, Utah's the only one under 200 right now. You're looking at Philly, who does have a lower total, but it's just more based off of pace. There's still some value in that game. Knicks, Brooklyn has the highest one, 224. You got Golden State and Charlotte, 223. Clippers, Suns, 220. And also Boston and Toronto, 217. Those are obviously good ones to focus on. Denver gets Memphis, 216. And still kind of with a tougher matchup for Denver. I still don't mind some of those guys. But I'm also looking more on the Memphis side. Obviously, Mike Conley coming off a big game against Phoenix. I'm looking for another one there. But diving right into it, point guards tonight. Obviously, kind of starting down at the lower end. Brandon Jennings, Derrick Rose likely out tonight against Brooklyn on the doubtful side. Put up 21, 5, and 2 last night with 4 steals. Obviously, you take away 4 steals, he still had a solid performance, still very cheap on both sides. No better matchup than Brooklyn in terms of fantasy points. So you're really looking at Brandon Jennings as your elite value play again tonight. And also, you can look at Melo again in that kind of mid-range small forward spot. The lack of peripheral stats last night was disappointing, but was still scoring pretty well. Porzingis doesn't suit up. We'll certainly be looking at Hernan Gomez once again, but we'll get to him a little bit later on. A couple other guys here. I don't mind if Deron Williams sits. You got Yogi Ferrell, who's coming off back-to-back strong games. Still not really priced up all that high. Just 4K on DraftKings, 38 DK points, 26 DK points last 2 games. Don't mind him. We look on FanDuel, and he's still not even priced up all that high either, just 4,900. So really him and Jennings, I mean, strong options, as long as Rose and Williams are out. So I'll certainly be looking at them. Won't be looking much lower than those two. I don't mind the Clippers backcourt, Raymond Felton, probably the guy that I'm least on. Austin Rivers has, more minutes, more upside, a little bit more expensive, but great matchup there against Phoenix and that pace. I don't mind targeting that game. So those are kind of the key guys I'll be looking at. I know Avery Bradley's doubtful for tonight. Marcus Smart, more in play on DraftKings, where he's also shooting guard eligible. I don't mind him. We really haven't seen a crazy upside game out of him. And I think at that price, I would like to see a little bit more. He is a little bit reliant on some defensive stats. Not the best shooter or scorer anyway. So I think he kind of gets lost a little bit for me tonight. I'd rather take options elsewhere. So the mid-range, Mike Conley, once again, not really quite priced high enough on DraftKings, just 7,300. A nice steal there against the Denver backcourt that struggles against point guards. I'll be looking at him. Even on FanDuel, where he's 7,900, in comparison to other point guards, you can certainly look at him as a mid-range option. Elfrid Payton, I don't mind in GPPs. Ricky Rubio, I don't mind in GPPs. Outside of that, though, I'm kind of staying away from some of these guys. Not really looking to use Schroeder tonight. Even if a healthy Williams, I'm not really looking to put him in play. George Hill, I'm not really looking at. So Dragic, I don't mind. Kemba Walker, I don't mind tonight. Kyrie Irving, Love is out. I don't mind the big 2 there. Kyle Lowry is probably the guy that I'm looking at the most right now, just because DeMar DeRozan is out for tonight's game. Him and Norman Powell going to suck up a lot of the usage in that backcourt. A little concerned given the fact that he did play 45 minutes last night in the overtime game, but should be okay tonight. And at those price tags, I'm still certainly fine with it. Guys like Russell Westbrook, obviously always in play. Good spot against the Chicago defense that, hasn't been great against point guards this year. Isaiah Thomas continuously lights it up, but he's also at a price tag where he does need to go off at his absolute ceiling to really pay it off right now, and that is a little bit more than I can handle at times. On a full game slate, he's probably the guy that I'm least on out of the top tier, just because he really does have to go off for, basically a 40-burger scoring points-wise. So if Curry does sit tonight, he is questionable with an illness. we saw Sean Livingston come up and start. I'm just more on Durant, Draymond Green, and Thompson at that point. I just like the usage shift to those guys more than I do kind of a backup situation. That's how I always kind of feel about the Warriors, because there are so many guys that, the bench players don't just step in like other teams and get that production. So moving on to shooting guard, as we mentioned, DeMar DeRozan is out for tonight's game. That means Norman Powell is going to come and see an uptick in minutes. We know what he's done kind of late. We know the situation already if you've been following us. Powell, one of the elite guys kind of on this value here at shooting guard, so I definitely don't mind using him. Also don't mind the Dallas backcourt for value. Seth Curry come up in price a little bit. 5,800, a little steep. Wesley Matthews, 56. I don't mind those guys still tonight. Decent mid-range options, good spot against Philly. Carrying a lot of usage there in the backcourt. So certainly don't mind those three again. You can look at them as kind of supreme values. And if Curry does sit, I don't mind Klay Thompson as well. Went off for 27, 6, and 2 against Portland. And that was a game that Curry didn't play. 41 FanDuel points, just 6,300 there. You can certainly look at him. And even on DraftKings, 68 is a little more expensive, but certainly don't mind him either. As far as dirt cheap guys, Gary Harris is a guy I don't mind tonight. Back-to-back strong games, obviously, against the Lakers and Phoenix. This one a little bit tougher matchup for the Nuggets, but I still think he's in play. I don't mind him out of that backcourt. I'm not really on Jameer Nelson tonight going up against Conley, so Harris would kind of be my pivot play. Don't mind Jamal Crawford. Wesley Matthews is a little bit better DK play just because of that price tag being at 4,700. Another guy that, had a down night, Courtney Lee last night, just 5 and 5, 27 minutes. Probably off of him. Wasn't really on him that much yesterday. Outside of that, though, those are probably the main guys that I'll be sticking on. And as far as the mid-range goes, I mean, you do have a couple guys that are shooting guard eligible on DraftKings, Rivers and Smart, which is a bonus. Zach LaVine's an interesting GPP play tonight because, one, we see this guy can near in on 40 fantasy points on any given night, but we've also seen him drop a couple duds. But I do like targeting Cleveland with some backcourt guys like, especially good scorers. The thing is that I don't mind him. Outside of that, though, I mean, the mid-range is kind of iffy. I'm not a big fan of Booker tonight. Wade's been pretty good. Minutes have been kind of trending back down, though. He does need to rely on the defensive stats to kind of give him that ceiling, which we have seen. I don't mind Nicholas Batum as always. He's just kind of that consistent producer. So those are the guys that I'm kind of really on for shooting guard tonight. Small forward, obviously, you can look at LeBron James. With Kevin Love out, gets a small bump. But I like Kevin Durant more here if Curry sits. This is a guy who's just consistently going to produce across the board. Did have 7 turnovers, which hurt him on FanDuel last game, but I'm okay here. Just at that price, it's not all that bad. And then once again, that mid-range, Paul George has found his groove. I don't mind going back to the well with him. I mean, he's been a 30 real point scorer over his last 4 games. Still not that crazy of a high price tag. It is on the rise again. More on DK is where I'm looking to use him at 8,100. 95 is a little more expensive. I kind of rather use up and go with Durant there, kind of pay down for a Melo of 85 or even a Wiggins in the tournament. So those are the guys that I'll be kind of looking to use in the top tier. Gordon Hayward on DraftKings is intriguing at 6,600. Good matchup there against the Bucks. They do allow, or a bottom 5 in fantasy points allowed to opposing small forwards. So I don't mind kind of targeting him. More of a DK play than anything there. 7,400 on FanDuel is a little bit steep. Outside of that, I mean, Avery Bradley's out. Jay Crowder's been consistently producing. Still at a similar price tag as we've got him over the last week or so. I don't mind him targeting him in all formats. Has seen just a tick up in offensive production in that span. Robert Covington, GPP play for me tonight, coming off a big game. Back-to-back big games for him. Has finally kind of given that steal upside as well. 2 or more steals in the last 5 games. You look at Dallas. I mean, they don't turn the ball over a ton. It is a little bit slower pace, so a little bit more riskier than it was in his previous matchups. I'm not as high on him, but obviously with Embiid out, you can certainly look his way. Okafor is not sucking up a ton of minutes right now either, so certainly you can give him a look. As far as that, Mid-range guys, CJ Miles has drawn some starts. Only played 20 minutes against Houston, which was a little bit of a concern. Not really on him right now. Terrence Ross was a guy who does see a tick up in minutes, but rather low ceiling. I know Jaylen Brown's gotten some run as well, but he's not really a consistent guy, more of a GPP target. But with Horford back, I can just kind of see him being just the third option. So small forward value, not particularly great. PJ Tucker, TJ Warren are probably the guys that I'll give a look at. I don't mind, using some of these guys that are small forward eligible on DraftKings as well. You can look at Norman Powell, who is small forward eligible. I don't mind that. Wesley Matthews as well. So we do get the added bonus there. And a guy I don't mind tonight is Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. Look at Charlotte last night, not a great game. He only played 24 minutes, kind of had a down game there. But I don't mind him against Golden State uptick in pace a little bit here. So he's a safe option for me again. Power forward, Nikola Jokic is out tonight. Obviously, that's kind of a downgrade game time decision, but probably more on the doubtful side tonight. If that's the case, we'll kind of see more of what we've seen before. Wilson Chandler, Gallinari shifting over to the 4, those guys using a lot of that there. We'll also see a lot of Fareed in the center. I haven't really seen Nurkic, and he's a guy I don't really expect to see. I don't expect to really plug in anyway, so kind of off of him at the moment. As far as that goes, Porzingis was a late scratch last night. Hernan Gomez will be a guy you can look to use. Obviously, he's just been excellent whenever he's gotten the minutes. Minutes have always been the question for him, so you can certainly fire away there if he's out. Kevin Love out tonight. We didn't really see – I know Channing Frye eventually kind of hit his value and only played 19 minutes, ended up with 13 and 7 with 2 blocks. Once again, full game slate, I kind of look to use value elsewhere. I'm not really particularly thrilled with that, especially if he's just going to get minutes like that. You got to hope that he's great on the fantasy points per minute scale, which I'm not really willing to bank on at this point. I'm much more in on just LeBron James and Kyrie Irving if that's the case, with Love out there. So guy that I'm looking at, Blake Griffin on DK. FanDuel price tag, not really on him there, 8,900, especially with the minutes kind of just floating below 30. DK, a little bit better value there. If he can kind of get things going in near 30 minutes, I'm okay with it. He did play 29 against Philly, only played 23 against Golden State because that was just an absolute blowout. So should be around the 30-minute mark. Definitely in play on DK. A little bit more expensive on FanDuel because you're not really getting that huge ceiling. So that's one thing to know. Draymond Green's price on FanDuel has dropped quite a bit, just 7,300. Just because he slipped up a little bit of late, has had a couple of games down in the 20s. Did have a good game against Charlotte, 13, 4, and 6, 3 blocks, 2 steals. Obviously, Portland, he struggled, which was kind of a downside to him. But I like a bounce back game here. And with Embiid out, you can look at Nerlens Noel and Ersan Ilyasova as kind of the better guys. Noel's been in foul trouble over the last 2 games. He did pick up 5,000 each. Still at a decent floor despite that, so that does give me a little bit better feelings towards him on tonight's slate. So I can certainly look at both those guys' way. Serge Ibaka is a guy that I'll be looking at quite a bit tonight. More of a tournament play as always, just because we've seen a couple of down games. Coming off a strong one against Minnesota. A good matchup here against Indiana, so I definitely don't mind using him. Ilyasova, the cheaper of Noel and him, so you can certainly fire away. Outside of that, not really looking at, the New Orleans or the Detroit situation, John Lure, Tobias Harris, just because they've been kind of cutting into each other's upside a little bit. So outside of that, though, you can look at Zach Randolph, who's been solid of late. I like this mid-range quite a bit. Not really anyone that I'm diving down for. Channing Frye is a notable name that you can toss in there, but I'm not particularly thrilled with using him tonight. Moving on to center, and as we mentioned, Joel Embiid out. Outside of that, though, Cody Zeller is really the only other injury concern, but it doesn't really affect anyone that I'd want to use. Hernan Gomez would be a guy that you can look at for extreme value if we get Porzingis out again tonight. Even then, I think he's a viable GPP shot because we could see some more run out of him. Outside of that, though, you can look at Tyson Chandler. I don't mind. Valanciunas is a guy that I'll be looking at, 5,800 on FanDuel, decent price tag there. Always has a decent price tag on DraftKings as well. He's sitting at 5,400, especially when you can roster 2 centers. He's always in play for me. So I do like that mid-range in terms of value at center. I think it's a decent spot for some of those guys to hit value. Miles Turner, Vucevic are 2 guys that I'm always interested in. Dwight Howard, Brook Lopez are always interesting GPP plays. I don't mind them on DraftKings where they're always kind of in that high 6 range, low 7, so you can certainly look their way. But Marc Gasol, Andre Drummond are guys that I'll be looking at a ton. I'm not really looking to pay up for a Towns, more of a GPP move at this point. Same thing with him and Anthony Davis. Davis coming off an okay game, didn't particularly shoot the ball well, but did get 18-17. So I kind of like that mid-range. I like sticking with Drummond. I like sticking with Gasol at this point. I don't mind Jordan as well. But the problem is, you look at Griffin, kind of takes away a little bit of usage from Jordan down low in the post. So that's going to hurt him a little bit in terms of his stealing. So keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that this is just 11 o'clock in the morning. Lots to kind of go as the day goes on. So stay on top of it. Head on over to dailyfantasycafe.com. We'll keep you posted. Also give us a follow on Twitter at DFCafe.